Hi, my name is Holly, and I'm here today to work with you to show you how to make a protective mask. And the protective mask is for this COVID-19 corona outbreak, and we're up against critical time to get masks made for all those people out there that are interfacing with the public and interfacing with people in need of care due to this virus. So thank you so much for being involved in this and helping make masks, because we're hopefully saving lives. So let's get started because we got masks to make. So go to Facebook and look up Gorge Makers Collective, and you're going to find the whole kit, and you're going to find all the documents there to have everything you need for materials. The pattern, the sequence of construction, and any other information is on this page. And I encourage you, if you're seeing this in another country or outside of our community, to start this movement in your own community, because it's really easy to rally people. Everyone wants to help. So what we're doing is we're having people cut, we're having people arrange kits, we're having other people sew, and everyone's rushing in to make this happen. And so I thank you so much for doing that too, if you're in our community here in Hood River, Oregon. Okay, let's get started. So a couple things I want to do this, the nose stay that goes into the mask, and we're using this really cool material. It's called aluminum tooling. And so you're going to cut a 1/8 and an 1/8 inch strip, and you're going to fold in the sides so that the sides are nice and smooth. So this is what it looks like, kind of opened up. And what you're going to do is fold these edges in, and then you're going to fold this on top. Okay, and it's just going to become this nice bendy strip. Okay, and then you're going to cut this into 4-inch lengths that will go into the mask, and the finished product, it looks just like this. Okay, you're going to take maybe not your fabric scissors, but any scissors, household scissors around your house, and trim the edges and make it nice and rounded. Okay, another thing that is really important is to pre-wash your fabric in hot water and dry it on high heat. So we're going to shrink down that fabric as much as we can before we get started. Okay, and then also to use a really thin needle. A thin needle to get started. A 12/80 is a good size, so that we're not punching big holes in the mask, and also to not use pins in the construction of this mask, because that opens up holes as well. Okay, so what I'm going to encourage you to do is there's going to be points in the project where you might want to attach your pieces together, and we're going to use these little small binder clips, or you can use paper clips. Okay, and there's just one point that gets a little tricky, that you might need that extra little grip to secure your fabrics. Okay, so I just wanted to show you, this is the mask you'll be looking for. It's a PDF with the other documents. So that's the front, and this is the back, okay? And we're using 100% calico cotton, quilter's cotton, and this is a nice pattern that allows you to put a filter inside, and also fits over an N95 mask. So it has lots of bonuses there. And there's a lot of work being done on locating tech fabric that is even a stronger barrier, but we don't have those resources right now, so we are just jamming with what we have that is the best line of defense. Okay, so here we go. We're going to get started. This is the front piece of the mask, okay? And so this is what you're going to be breathing into out this way. So this is the center front seam, and that's where we're going to start, on the center front seam. So we're sewing at 3/8 of an inch, and with this whole project, whenever you start and stop, you need to do a lock stitch, and that means to go backwards and then start again. Really secure right from the edge. Okay, oops. And we got that. We'll do a little trim. Okay. And we're going to open this up, and that's going to be ready to go after we do this next step. Okay, now this is the back piece, and there's 2 back pieces. That's the back side, front side. We're going to be working from the back side, so you're looking down at the back side of the fabric, and we're going to do a 1/4 inch double rolled edge or hem. Okay, so I'm going to do a 1/4 inch there, and then I'm going to roll it again another 1/4 inch, and then I'm going to put it under my presser foot, and we're going to get started. Like that. Okay, so we're going to just keep manipulating that rolled edge as we go. Okay, we're going to manipulate that roll. Okay, and then what I like to do is back tack, keep going, and then I can put my other one in. So because they're the same on both sides, this is the top of the mask or bottom of the mask, it doesn't matter. They're the same on both sides. So I'm going to flip it around and just feed this one right in. There's no need to stop and cut threads. You can just keep going here. Okay, so I'm going to start again. It's kind of assembly style, really. Okay, and then off we go. And back tack. Okay, another thing, if your machine has this needle down button, this is really great. Okay, we push that, and what happens is when you're stopping the machine, the needle stays in the fabric so that you can pivot and you're not skipping stitches. Okay, so I just put that on my machine to make sure I have that. So this is a part where you might want to use those binder clips or a paper clip. Okay, and so you're going to align the sides. This is the front and the back being aligned. I'll put it in the light. So you have the front of the mask that's been turned out, so you're looking at that. It's nice and open there. And then you have the back of the mask in front of you, and these are the sides. Okay, we're going to line those corners, and then I'm going to work from this upper corner. Okay, I'm just going to pinch it here, and I'm going to start walking the seam edges, the front of the mask seam and the back of the mask seam. I'm just going to keep walking those edges. And when I get up to the top here, at that center front seam, I'm going to fold that seam back, like towards me this way, and I'm going to pin it there. Or not pin, I'm sorry. Scratch that. I didn't say pin. We're going to clip it. Okay? Right at the center front. Okay, and then we're going to take this other back piece. We're going to align this back right side corner, and we're going to walk that the same way we did the other side. And we're going to walk it along, and then we're just going to make sure that these are aligned, kind of still walking it along, and you can just re-clip that so that they're happily together. Okay, now we're going to start from this side. So you're looking at the back side of this, and you're going to go to this left back corner, and we're going to make sure that our front and our back are nice and aligned, and then we're going to start sewing at 3/8 of an inch. So we're going to get started, and we're going to go back tack, and we're going to cruise along, and then when you get up to this big bulky binder clip, just be mindful of what's going on with the fabric, front and back, okay? And we're just gonna get rid of that guy because he's done a good job. Okay, so then we're gonna just peek underneath here and make sure that everything's aligning. So you got this underflap here, and you're just watching that seam so that they're aligned with each other. This seam here, and then this seam right on top of it, right there. Okay, and then off we go. Lining it up. Okay, and then stopping and aligning this corner right here, which is important, and just bringing it to the end. Okay, and then back tack. And go, actually. Okay, so this next point, we're going to put this nose stay in. So we're going to flip this thing inside out. Okay, and what we're going to do, I'm going to trim that so I don't pull anything out. So what we're going to do is just finger press the seam. Okay, so you can just finger press, and it just helps turn out that seam, which means have it turn out flat so there isn't any fabric rolling into that seam there. Okay, so next what we're gonna do is we're gonna mark our casing for the nose stay. This is the casing here, and we're gonna sew down and make a 1/2 inch casing that the nose stay slips into. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to the front of my mask, and this is a center front seam. I'm gonna line that with a little cross here, because that's the indicator of the actual seam itself, okay? So we're gonna put our finger there. We're gonna walk this out to the notch, okay? And then what I'd like for you to do is mark that notch on the back side. Even though you have the front side in front of you, you're gonna mark it on the back side of the fabric like this, okay? And then for this other side, and I'm just gonna flip it around, okay? So there's that, there's my notch. If that helps, you can mark that on your pattern. And then we're gonna do the same thing. I have my seam line, or my seam, and then the seam line right here. We're aligning that, and then the notch is right there. So I'm gonna sneak my pin right under here, because we're gonna go sew from the back side, so that's where we're gonna see it. Alrighty, next step, we're gonna sew that casing. And it looks just like this. We're gonna make sure that seam is nice and turned out, and we're gonna go to that notch, press your foot down, and we're gonna start sewing, back tap. We're gonna sew down to a 1/2 inch. Needle in, pivot, and sewing. Okay, and then this seam, we wanna just make sure everything's nice. We have everything nice and flat. You can kind of check underneath here to make sure everything's nice and flat. Okay, so we don't have any wrinkling in there. Okay. And I'm following it along here. Nice and flat. Okay, and then we're gonna stop and back tack. Okay, and we're gonna leave that casing open, because next we're gonna put that metal stay inside. So next we're gonna take this nose piece and we're gonna slip it right inside here and straight into our casing. And the reason we had you, when you were sewing this, to push that seam allowance this way is so that when you're inserting this nose stay, it just slips right into that seam without getting hung up. Okay, and there we go. You can kind of, if it's a little, sometimes it can get a little bit sticky in the fabric, so this is a perfect example of that. And I'm gonna just keep kind of like pushing it down in. And I'm gonna wiggle in there and find his new home. Nice little nose stay. Okay. This is really nice because it makes a really nice fit, so it's snug up against someone's face and they don't have air pockets there. Okay, so then we're gonna start at this backside edge, right across from where you left off, and we're going to sew down, back tack, and you can kind of go a couple back tacks there. Okay, nice. Okay, and then next we're gonna insert the elastic. Okay, so we made those. We have our notches. Just gonna double check our notches here. So here's our seam and our notches. Notch and a notch. Okay, and we're gonna flip this over and we're gonna do this on this side. We have our seam and our notch and our notch, and we're gonna make sure that that's indicated right here. Okay, and next we're gonna put that elastic in. We're gonna turn this inside out again. Okay. And what we're doing is we're sandwiching the elastic on the inside of the mask, and then we'll turn it inside out of this little envelope, and it will be clean finished on the outer edge. So this this part you want to make sure that the elastic is smooth and bends over like a C. There's no twisting, okay? So that elastic looks like a C. Okay, and then you're gonna move that elastic together and just pinch it so it's right up next to each other so you can hold it in one hand while you're working this other hand, okay? And you're gonna lay this down right over the notches. First one to this notch, second one to this notch. And into the machine here. Once you get it set in the machine, you can double check, make sure everything's, what I like to do is get started just a little bit, back tack here, and then checking on my elastic, yep. And it's good there. And see my notches right there? So you can notch on both sides of the fabric before you even get started, so you don't have to take that extra step. Okay, so then back and forth over that elastic for really secure, because it's going to get really tugged on quite a bit. So you want to like back tack over that maybe 2 different times. Okay, we're going to go down to the intersection here and needle in, and we're going to lift the lever, presser foot, and nice little pivot. Okay, down. And then this is where the fabric overlaps again. So this is important to be mindful of which fabric is on top of the other, okay? So again, we're gonna go here and line up. I like to start from this back side and just walk it over. So I'm gonna line up that back corner edge. I'm gonna line up my seams and all the way this way. And I'm gonna hold it. And then this guy lays right over the top. And I'm just gonna hold my hand there. I don't even need to get out the binder clips because we're gonna just keep on cruising. Okay, 3/8 of an inch. And then you can stop, do a little double check-a-roo, make sure everything's looking good. And so that's aligned. This is nice and aligned. And okay, well, I'm going to go back a tiny bit and pivot. Okay, and now we're going to put the elastic on this side. So this one is a little trickier because you're working with a hole here. Okay, so what we're going to do is grab the elastic. We're going to make that C shape again. Okay, we're going to pinch it. No twists. We're going to hold that together. And we're just going to slip it right in that hole there. Okay. And then what I like to do is wiggle it towards the top first and get that first one nice and aligned with so you can see the elastic poking out right there. It's going to get caught in that seam, making sure you're catching that in the seam. And then number 2 guy needs to go down and live in his new home right under that notch. Okay, and aligned, and then we're just going to hold on to it. I'm going to feel both of them with this right hand, okay? And I'm going to get started. I'm going to cruise along, and I'm feeling that elastic, so I'm going to go back over it, and back over it, and then this guy. Make sure that elastic is nice and straight so it doesn't come out at an angle, because that will make a wonky fit for whoever's wearing it, and you don't want that. You don't want them to have to mess with their mask at all. So nice and straight right out of that seam, okay? All right, and then to the end. And we back tack, and we go over that elastic a couple times. That's really important to go over those elastic pieces a couple times because it's gonna get a lot of tension. It's a stress point, and we just wanna make sure it's really secure. Okay, and then bam, now we're gonna turn it inside out, and we're almost done. So we're going to turn it out inside out like you're turning out a pillowcase. Okay, we're going to trim threads. And then what I like to do is take a closed pair of scissors and push out these little corners so they're nice and sharp and neat. You can wiggle out those corners or use the scissors, but wiggling it out works too. We don't want to poke any holes in this thing, so let's try not to use the scissors. Actually, it's probably a better idea just to be on the safe side so we don't ruin it. Okay, so we got nice little corners. Okay, we're gonna get this guy all together. So this is our top with the nose piece, and then this is our bottom. We're gonna make sure that the bottom elastic notches are there. And this one I didn't do that out of the gate, but you can do it at the very beginning. I encourage you to do that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flip it over because I'm working off of my center front seam. There, the measurement. And see that seam right there? So I'm gonna just walk this over here, and that's where my notch should be. And I'm gonna mark it on the back side. Okay, and the same for this side. And make sure that that's marked. So I encourage you to do this before you get started. And I didn't, so you can always do it on the fly just like this and make sure it's marked. Okay, now we're going to zigzag stitch the elastic on. The elastic creates a cupping effect underneath the chin, and that's really nice because it really comes under the face and cups under. Okay, so this is our last and final step. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna start at the top of the mask next to the casing. We're gonna top stitch, okay? And then we're gonna come down here, we're gonna pivot. We're top stitching on the edge stitching. We'll get down to this elastic notch and we're gonna insert the elastic. At that point, we're gonna change the machine to a wide elastic width, a wide zigzag width, so that you can zigzag across almost the whole width of your 1/4 inch elastic, and that helps really hold the elastic and give it a lot of bungee goodness. Okay, here we go. We're gonna top stitch, come into the corner here, gonna pivot, we're gonna come around to the corner, and we're gonna pivot. Okay, and then we're just double checking that seam edge there and rolling out that seam and finger pressing it. This is a nice way to do it with the needle down, and you can just kind of like pinch it and roll back those seams so it's nice and flat. Okay, and then we have our elastic ready to go, and we're gonna straight stitch down to the notch. Okay, there's the notch. I'm gonna put my needle in. I'm gonna butt this elastic right up to the needle, okay? It's just right up against the edge there. So at this point, you're gonna change the stitch to a zigzag stitch, and it's gonna be a medium width in the zigzag. So not all the way across, but just right down the middle of this 1/4 inch elastic, okay? And then you also wanna have a really long stitch length so that you're not sewing down all the elasticity, okay? So a long stitch length. So we're gonna lengthen that stitch quite a bit, okay? So first, we're gonna start with the zigzag and we're gonna back tack. So it's really secure because it's gonna get pretty tugged on here, stretching it. Okay, and then needle down. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna stretch it all the way to this notch, and we're gonna hold it. And then halfway down, we're going to secure it again in the middle with your other finger. And you're gonna make sure that everything's pulled out from underneath, so there's no puckering under there. And you're gonna be able to see a little bit of the fabric on this other side of the elastic, okay? You don't want it going off the edge. Okay, you're gonna hold it down. You can use your ring finger stretching out here because you're gonna need this other hand to secure the back side to add tension when you're stretching, okay? So it's all stretched. You've got a finger here holding it to the notch, and then you have like your ring finger right here securing it in the middle, and then your left hand securing it back here, and then off you go, nice and wide. That allows the elastic to do its thing in between each stitch with the wide and long stitching. Okay, all the way to, okay, we're gonna down to the notch, and we're going to back tack to secure that. And then we're going to go to your straight stitch, and we're going to lessen that stitch length again. Okay, and then down. Then we're going to pivot. And then we're going to pivot. We're going to go down. And we're going to pivot. And we're going to go all the way to the casing edge here. Right up to the casing edge. And we're going to back tack. And you're done. Okay, next I'm going to show you quickly how to sew in these ties. And these are bias tape pieces. Some of them are bias tape. Others will get kits with twill tape in them. And so what you can do is just top stitch along the edge to close this bias tape. Okay, so that is the bias tape. Actually, this one was top stitched, but because the bias tape comes up shy of the other side, I actually didn't catch that seam. So I'm going to double check that and re-stitch this. So I'm just going to stitch right over. If you are sewing bias tape, definitely top stitch on the side that comes up shy of the back side. Hope that makes sense. And so I'm going to just go over this one again and catch that side. Okay, and then we're going to back tack. Okay, and then on the ends, what we're going to do is just fold over just a 1/4 inch, or more like 3/8, I guess, and just secure the end of this so it doesn't fray. Okay, so I'm just going to fold it over at 3/8 of an inch, put it under my machine at about 1/4. Okay, and then we're going to stitch and back tack. You can kind of use your fingernail to get it going. Sometimes it's tough when you're sewing just a little end of something. Okay, and then back tack. And that will be the end of your tie. The end of it. Okay, the other side, we're going to sandwich inside of the mask. So I'm going to get all 4 of my ties ready here. And here's the back side of your mask turned out. But what we're going to do is we're going to turn it inside out again. Okay, so we're inside out. And then we're going to go to those notches on the side, just like the elastic one. We're going to take the end that is not finished. That's our finished end for the tie. And we're going to secure, we're going to put this end piece right up there with that, where that notch is. Okay. And we're going to secure the other one right there. This other, actually, you know, the best way to do this is get it started in the machine and then get those oriented. Okay, so we're going to start sewing at 3/8 of an inch. We're going to back tack, come right up to the seam there. So you're right at the intersection with the seam, and lift the presser foot. Okay, we're going to orient this strap. You can line up the edge of this strap right along the seam edge there, so you make sure it gets caught in that seam. Okay, we're going to put that down. We're going to start sewing back over it. Really secure, because it's going to get a lot of torque and tension. Okay, now next strap is going to go right over this other notch, and we're just going to hold it in place there until we get down to this, and we're going to back tack, securing that tie really well. And then we're going to get to the intersection, and we're going to pivot. Okay, and then this is the same process as the other mask, but this is just the ties. You're going to get to the other side, and you're going to sew these sandwiched inside of your mask like this, going around, and voila, then you can turn out your mask and you're on your way. This mask that you just made is going to save a life, or 2 or 3 or 4 or however many, but you know what, you're going to do great things by contributing to this project, and thank you so much for getting involved. So again, you can find us on Gorge Makers Collective on Facebook, and you'll get all the information you need in your packet. There's a whole bunch of documents and how-tos and how to get organized if you're a community in another part of the world or outside of Oregon, but we all need to band together and act as one giant community to save each other. So thank you so much. And if you don't live in Hood River and you're not a part of this community effort, you can start your own in another community. Thank you so much, and I hope you take care of yourself and love up your family and enjoy. Thanks again. Bye-bye.